Welcome to another segment of the BYU Management Society's Learn from Professional initiative. Our goal is to provide guidance to young adults who either are exploring various careers or ready to jumpstart a career. Today, we have the opportunity to learn from Lyndon L, a seasoned professional in the legal field. Lyndon is a senior partner at Michael Best and Friedrich and plans to retire at the end of this year. Lyndon advises businesses and government entities on a broad spectrum of corporate and transaction issues. Known to his clients as an informed and experienced businessman, as well as a lawyer, he helps them with corporate and commercial matters, including compliance and security laws, buying and selling businesses, and creating and organizing new lines of business. He often serves as outside general counsel to his clients, creating and quarterbacking customized legal teams for each one of his clients and advise them in all matters of businesses and government entities face. So Lyndon, thanks for joining us and being willing to share your expert advice to our viewers. So we have a few questions here for you today. The first one we'll start with is, what made you decide to pursue a career as a lawyer?
I grew up on a farm in Idaho, and we raised potatoes and barley and wheat, and I had hay fever. So it made it tough for me to work on a farm. I had runny nose and watery eyes every spring and fall, and decided I couldn't be a farmer. Uh, and no one in my family is a lawyer, so there wasn't any precedent for me there. But I did have discussions with my dad and with my grandfather, and came out of those discussions, and I just felt like I would always be a lawyer. So I don't have a really good explanation for that, but frankly, it's been a great choice for me.
Okay, great. So please tell us about your own career path and what has been, the things that have you done to make a successful career.
I'm pretty boring. I joined a law firm in Salt Lake right out of law school in 1982. And 43 years later, I'm still with the law firm in Salt Lake City, a different firm, but still in Salt Lake City. And frankly, I just enjoy the clients I've been able to work with, as well as the attorneys and staff in my law firms. Being an attorney really was a great choice for me, and I'm grateful I've been able to help a lot of people, actually.
Okay. So what's been one of the best career advices that you've received?
Um, I can think of a couple. Uh, the first is treat others the way you want to be treated. That advice, sometimes known as the golden rule, came from a very reliable source, I might say. But one example of that, if you call someone and you leave a message for them to call you back, you hope that they'll respond promptly. If a client calls you and leaves you a message and you fail to promptly return that call, they'll remember your lack of responsiveness. And when that client's making a decision about which lawyer to call for the next project, the responsive lawyer is likely to get the call. So treat others like you'd like to be treated.
Mhm. Did you have a
The next,
timeline for that? I mean, like at my firm, we had a 24-hour rule, right? We'd get back to them within 24 hours. Was there a
did
long
you?
time limit with that, or was it
Um,
kind of general?
I've never had a firm rule about that. My firm never had a rule about that. I certainly had an internal rule that I would respond sooner than 24 hours. I would always get back to them. I mean, if I have a big deal going on that I'm going to be pretty tied up and I'm not going to be too accessible to other clients, the clients that I think may have needs during that time that I'm going to be unavailable, I will give them a heads up in advance saying, I'm going to be tied up for this week or the next 3 weeks. So if you need something, just give me a call. I'll get back to you, but it'll be in between other meetings and those kinds of things.
Mhm.
So it really is a matter of managing expectations. If a client knows that you're tied up and that you'll get back to them as soon as you can, they're fine with that. They just want to know. They just don't want you to ignore them or think that you're ignoring them just because you're not returning the calls promptly.
Okay.
My next bit of career advice uh, came from my criminal law professor. His name is Woody Deem, and he would start every class by saying, "Criminals are stupid," and then he would stand up and tell us a funny story from his career as a prosecutor. But then he would randomly call on one of the students to recite the facts and the law from one of the cases on the assigned reading list. And we'd all be nervous uh, because we didn't know when we were going to be called on. But he would record our presentation and then would schedule a time to meet with that student to review it together. And when he met with me, he pointed out the times that I would say, or ah, or when I lick my lips, or when I'd use phrases like, and other quirks. He explained that a jury or a client could be turned off by some of the annoying and distracting habits that we each have, or even by our failure to use proper grammar, saying things like, we was placed here, or I seen them leaving together. So it was terrific for each of us to become aware of and focus on some of the things that we do that cause others to stop listening to us or even avoid us. Now, that's a lifelong pursuit. So when you notice some of my annoying habits while watching this video, please know I'm still working on it. But as professionals, people rely on us to give correct answers. We need to get the substance right. But Professor Deem taught me that the way we present the substance is also critical. We need to focus both on what we're presenting and on how we're presenting it. Another piece of advice is that a lawyer focuses each day on getting the projects done for the clients so the results can be delivered when promised. And that's important to keep your commitments. But my career advice to aspiring lawyers is to set aside at least a few minutes every day to stay in contact with friends or roommates or people you meet. Send them a text or an email or send them something you've read that they'll be interested in, even give them a call. One, because relationships are an important part of a happy life. But two, when that friend has a legal question or issue, you want to be the first person he or she thinks of to contact. So keep filling the pipeline, even if you think it may be filled to overflowing at present.
Mhm. Yeah, great. Thanks. So can you tell us, as an attorney, what do you do? Tell us a little bit more about what you do on a day-to-day basis.
So I'm a corporate and securities attorney. When a client, for example, wants to start a new business, we'll have a discussion about what type of entity to form. Is it a corporation, a limited liability company? What makes the most sense for them in their circumstances? We talk about what agreements are important for them to get in place at formation or what can wait till later. If they need to raise money for their business, we help them prepare disclosure documents to do that. If they're a public company, we help with filings with the SEC. And I also act as outside general counsel to many businesses. When they have any legal issue, they call me. If it involves corporate securities work, I'll do it or give it to an associate. But if it's some other type of work, the client relies on me to bring in a specialist in that field to handle the work. So if a client sold product to a customer and the customer filed bankruptcy, I connect the client with a bankruptcy team. If an employee of a client claims they've been subject to harassment, I'll bring in someone from our labor and employment team. But I like being the person the client calls first, especially when they know it's in a field that I don't personally work in. They trust me to get them the best help possible and to quarterback the work so I can always report back to the client what's going on in their matter.
Yeah, thanks. So how did you get the position where you're at now? Was it a straight shot or did you have some ups and downs throughout your career?
Well, I was a partner in my own firm of 20 or fewer lawyers for most of my 43-year career. But about 7 years ago, a big firm, like Michael Best and Friedrich, a 300 plus lawyer firm based in the Midwest, approached us and we decided to join together. Um, so that's how I got my current position. But in terms of career path, there are always ups and downs. When I had been practicing law for about 10 years, one of my partners became heavily involved in trying to get the 2002 Olympics for Salt Lake City. And while that effort was successful for Salt Lake, the absence of a partner for many months caused a significant financial strain on our firm, and it ultimately resulted in the firm splitting up. And that was a stressful time for me with 5 kids and ordinary expenses to take care of. But I joined another law firm and life continued. I suspect that most careers have difficult times. It may be a coworker or a client that you don't get along with, or you may make a mistake along the way. Some days it's fun to go to work. Other days it's not so fun. So yeah, we all have obstacles we get to deal with in our career path.
Okay, thanks. So in addition to your formal education, are there any other certifications or advanced learnings that's been helpful to you in your career?
Uh, yes, I mean every lawyer has to comply each year with continuing legal education requirements to maintain your license with the bar. So you have to have a certain number of hours. Some of those can be in your field of choice. Some of them have to be in ethics or, professional responsibility, those kinds of things. So each year we get to do that to renew our law license. There are, to become a lawyer, you graduate from law school and take a bar exam. But there are post-law school advanced law degrees that are also available in specialty fields. For example, you can get an LLM degree in tax or some other field. So anyway, yes, there are additional requirements that you need to comply with even after you become an attorney.
Okay.
But it also means that if your career path takes a hiccup and your firm explodes, or you're otherwise looking for employment and you've been doing a certain kind of law, you can go get certified in a different area of law. I mean, you can go get an advanced degree in some area of law. So there are lots of career paths that you can take with a law degree.
So did you change your path? You talk about having to change.
I actually have always been a corporate securities attorney. I came out of law school. I took my last law school final on December 19th of 1981. I remember that because it was my birthday. And then I came out and started full-time as a lawyer on January 1st of 1982. And back then we just studied for the bar in the evenings and then took the bar exam when it came around. We had a day job and anyway, but 1982 is the year that Regulation D was issued. And for those that know something about securities law, that's been a sort of a bellwether event, a safe harbor for companies that are raising money. And so that is something that I learned that year, and it helped me. That sort of became my specialty, and my career was spent. A lot of it, at least, was spent in helping folks as they're trying to raise money.
Okay. So what do you consider?
In fact, I will say I've been asked. I've been serving as a member of the Utah Securities Commission, which is an appointment by the governor and ratification by the Senate to help deal with people that have violated the securities law. So that's just a matter of community service that I'm doing right now. I've been doing it for now 5 years, and have at least another 3 years to go on my 4-year commitment now. But having the background in securities law is helpful when facts are presented about people that have raised money from others and then not complied with the securities law. So it's been a useful thing, not only to help clients, but also in community service.
Okay, great. So what do you consider the most important rewards and challenges of being a lawyer?
Well, one of the best rewards is that you get to work with great people. One of the greatest challenges is that you occasionally have to work with people who are difficult. So working with people really is both sides of that equation. Most of it's wonderful. You get to work with great folks. The other thing I would say is you get the opportunity to use your knowledge of the law to help people. It feels good to know that you provided help to somebody that as they work through a legal challenge. And you have the opportunity to learn on a daily basis. The law changes, and the application of your client's facts to the law is always challenging. So it's great to learn new things each day. I like that about being a lawyer.
Okay. So what are the trends that are impacting the legal field right now?
I would say that using technology wisely, technology changes. That's one of the trends. Technology, in fact, is replacing a lot of the kinds of things that we used to do as attorneys. So, for example, a young associate doing merger and acquisition work used to spend hundreds of hours reviewing contracts of the target company. And now, using artificial intelligence, those contracts can be quickly summarized. You still need a lawyer to analyze and interpret the results of those summaries. So lawyers are still needed, but they don't spend their time doing the same kinds of things that they used to. So that I think is a big impact in terms of trends. But I do think that since lawyers are still selling their time, uh, clients want to know that you're using your time and their money wisely. So I think you do need to use the tools that are available, and don't spend the hundreds of hours that you used to spend doing things that something else can do it more efficiently currently.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And what are some of the characteristics of most successful leaders in your profession?
I think being willing to listen carefully is a big thing. I think too often, as professionals and frankly just as friends, we we sometimes stop listening and try to get our response ready to whatever it is that they're saying. And I think listening is critical to make sure that we understand what it is that's going on in the client's life or in our friend's life that we really need to know. Um, but then I think that the second component of that is that we need to ask good questions. Often clients call thinking they know what they need, but after reviewing the facts and asking certain questions and learning about the outcomes they really want to get, you may suggest a very different course of action than the client thought they wanted. So asking enough questions to get the facts you need is important, and listening carefully to what those answers are. Another characteristic I'd probably say is just care for the people you work with, whether they're clients or staff, being willing to help, be the kind of person others want to work with rather than a person that's difficult to work with. Um, and I don't know that anybody thinks they're difficult to work with. That's something we all have to kind of think about and work on. Uh, but but I think it's worth thinking about and working on.
Yeah. Do you really have that relationship with somebody to ask that question, right? Is why am I difficult to work with, right?
Yes, yes. Or even just an open-ended, what can I do that would make your life easier? Whether it's a client or whether it's a staff person, how can I interact with you that would be better for you? Uh, they may be more willing to respond to something like that than give me a laundry list of things that drive you crazy about me.
Yeah. How long do you want the list to be?
Yeah, that's right. How long do you have?
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to someone that is interested in successfully jump-starting a career as a lawyer?
I would say that giving a lot, I said, did you notice that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Getting a law degree opens up many career paths. Today, we've really only talked about a career in a law firm because that's what I'm most familiar with. Uh, but as to that, if you're young and in a law firm and you want to jumpstart your career, I would recommend that you treat the partners who provide you the work that you're doing as your clients. And so when you return your work back to the partner, you should act as if the partner is going to forward your work to the client without review. The partner will, in fact, review it, but if he or she finds that the work is incomplete, contains typos, is poorly researched, or poorly analyzed, it may take a long time to get that trust back. So treat those partners as your clients. Um, but the other advice I'd give, we referred to briefly before, but I think we need to focus as professionals on getting our current work done, but also always on developing a client base of your own. Reaching out to people each day, doing something each day that is client development related. That's in your short-term best interest, but certainly in your long-term best interest. That helps you control your own career because you've got your own clients that like you and want you to do their work. But it's also in the best interest of your firm. They want people that other people trust, and that's a good thing that's a good trait to develop. But it's hard to do. You have billable hour requirements. You have clients that want you to get all their work done. And so sometimes it's only 5 minutes during the day that you send out a text or an email or a something. But I think it's important to do every day so that you just don't forget that that is an important thing to do all the time.
Okay. Yeah. And it seems like, I mean, network is, you've mentioned it multiple times, right? Is definitely something that is, required to become a successful attorney, especially if you stay in a legal firm, right? Because they want you to sell. And
Mhm.
you've mentioned a little bit about how you do that. Is any other thoughts about how do you, network effectively?
In that regard, I would say focus on service. Serve in your community, whether that's coaching little league teams or serving on a planning commission or city council or serving on bar committees or boards of nonprofits or join other groups that share your interests. It doesn't matter so much what group it is. You ought to find something that you like and that you enjoy and that you think you can provide some help to. But in the course of that, you just meet people and they know you and they get to trust you. And so it's hard because working with law firms that have big billable hour requirements requires you to spend most of your time doing that. But if you fail to do that, your progress in the firm is going to be limited. And so, yeah, there's a balancing act, but that there are lots of ways to get involved, and it just depends on each person. What do they like to do? What do they want to spend that time doing? But it's important to do.
Yeah, yeah, it's something you got to be comfortable with, but you've got to do it something on a daily basis. So,
Mhm.
okay. And you talked a little bit about balancing, right? So how do you have balance in your life, right? If you're interested in being a successful lawyer, but how do you have that balance?
Well, life in a big law firm is not known for being friendly to any interests outside of the firm. But many lawyers come out of law school and start at a big law firm because it offers the highest salary. It also provides a great work experience, and you build your resume, and it can be a springboard to in-house positions in smaller law firms with lower billable requirements or government service or whatever. Um, but I don't think there's a one size fits all answer to that question. Each person gets to decide what the right balance is for their life, and that balance likely changes over time. When you've got if you've got young children at home, you may desire to have a little more time to spend with them, so you get to see them when they're young. And when they're old and you're empty nesters, you may have more time to be able to spend doing legal work if that's what you'd like to do. But anyway, the point is that changes over time, and what is a right balance for one person is not the right balance for another person, and even what's the right balance for me today wasn't the right balance for me 10 years ago, and may not be in the future. So I think that's always something that you need to be assessing. Is your current balance where you want it to be, and if it isn't, what changes do you think you want to make to make sure that that balance feels good for you? You do come out of law school knowing that in the early years of your career, you're going to spend a lot of time. You need to spend a lot of time advancing your career and getting known in the community and getting your name out there. Um, so, I mean, you ought to be prepared for that early in your career, that you need to focus more attention to that side of it, while not forgetting everybody else in the process. You do have a family as well.
Yeah, it sounds like you want to bring them into that decision-making process as well, right? Of where that balance is.
Absolutely.
So,
That's right. Well, and because your view of the correct balance may not be in sync with somebody else's view that's important in your life, whether that's a spouse or a child or whatever.
mhm.
So,
Okay. So I've found that young people, especially wanting their career to have a meaningful and positive impact on society. So what advice would you give to young adults trying to have that meaningful and positive impact?
I would recommend that they visit the career services office at a law school, so that they consider the various positions that are available to those that graduate from law school. Because we've only talked about coming out and practicing law in a law firm. There are so many career paths that are available to someone that has graduated from law school. So I would say go find out what those paths are. What are the ones that interest you? Where do you want to make an impact? And then focus on those you're interested in. And in the meantime, then, I mean, you can get good advice from the career services office, in terms of what are the potential salaries for the positions that you want to make an impact in. And you have to balance that with the student debt that you're taking on, to get your education. So those are things that you just, I think that's a good place to start to know what path you want to take when you get out of law school. Now, most I don't know. I was going to say most lawyers. Most I don't know if it's most students. A lot of students, me included, when I started law school, I didn't have any idea what kind of law I wanted to practice or how I wanted to make an impact in the community. And so if you don't know, I don't think I would stress too much about it. That kind of comes to you as you get out in the practice and you find a firm that you like and they have a focus, or the people you're working with have a focus that you like. That's just a good place to start, and you may decide that's where you want to stay. Um, but I think that you can probably accomplish that positive impact on society in about any area that you choose. For example, in being a corporate securities attorney, gee, you could look at that and say, well, you're just helping a bunch of rich people. What good are you doing for the world? Well, I think it is great to work. I've really enjoyed working with companies that are at all stages of development. You may be helping companies that are creating the next technology that's really going to be helpful to people in the world, or you might have a professional sports team as a client that thousands of people are going to enjoy watching, or you're going to have a client that employs a lot of people and has a really positive impact on the economy. All of those kinds of things can be rewarding. So even a corporate securities lawyer, I think, can look back on a career and say, I think I was helpful. I think I did some good.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Appreciate that. Um,
Sure.
so is there any other last career advice that you would offer to young adults?
Just a couple of points. One, I would say, um, write thank you notes. Someone, actually, it was my son that for a present one year gave me. This is just a blank note card, but it has my name embossed in the top, and I use these to write thank you notes to people. That has been a great thing for me. One, because it's helped me to be grateful, to recognize what a positive impact that other people have had on my life and on my career, whether they send me a new client, whether they have just done me a favor, or whatever it is. But the act of me taking the time to write a thank you note has been a very helpful thing to me, and a number of people have expressed appreciation when they receive those things. So that would be one piece of advice.
Yeah, I just wrote
The
my note
second,
down. I just wrote my note down here to write you a thank you note. So
I'll look forward to getting it. But the other follows up with my Woody Dean discussion earlier. Learn to write well and speak well. You spend a lot of time doing both of those in your career as a lawyer. And so, when you go to English class, pay attention. It really does matter how you present an argument, or how you organize your thoughts and put them down in writing. Those kinds of things in your undergraduate studies can really help you prepare for a great career in the law.
okay. Well, thank you, Lyndon. We appreciate your time today to offer career advice to those young adults who are interested in becoming a lawyer, or at least a career as an attorney. To wrap up this video, we'd like to remind our viewers that they can either reach out to their own seasoned professionals to schedule an informational interview, or ask for an introduction from a professional from someone they know. To prepare for these informational interviews, we recommend that you watch the videos on our website called Conducting Informational Interviews to get insight on how to do those interviews. So again, we appreciate it, Lyndon, and thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.